Hi, welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. Glad you found us, and for those who are coming back, glad to have you back. It's exciting to share some of the topics and conversations. We have a lot of great guests coming up. I'm excited about some of the variety that we have, great stories, rants, all kinds of good things. So today I want to tell you about, wait a minute, before we get started here, I want to tell you about my friends over at Wealth Management Group. I absolutely love these guys. They're one of the sponsors for the show. They help people get to their retirement plans. They help people get to their financial independence. These are independent guys. They don't just sell you things. They are here to help you reach your financial goals. So if you're interested in financial planning, or making more on your returns on your investments, they're the guys to go to. Their website is wealthmanagement.estate. That's wealthmanagement.estate. They do work throughout the United States. Okay, today on the show, I want to talk to you about motorcycles. When I grew up, my father was a highway patrolman, and he was stationed in Camp George West out in Golden. So that's my hometown. I grew up in Golden, Colorado. Now, my dad was adamant about not allowing myself or any of my siblings to ride a motorcycle. He just didn't like them because in his line of work, he would basically see so many people dying in accidents because he'd always tell us, myself and my siblings, that it's not the motorcycle rider in most cases that cause the accidents. It's the cars that are on the street, because here in Colorado, we don't have a long enough season for bikes to be ridden without freezing, and so cars just aren't used to them, exactly what you'd find in warmer climates. So today I call this little quick episode, this quick story, Died in My Arms. So in 1989, I went to work for a software company over in Salt Lake City. I was new to the town. It was really fun, adventuresome, single guy running around Salt Lake City, having fun. And one afternoon, I was coming out of work. It was probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock. I usually went in a little bit earlier. And I was left the office, and it was on 53rd South, if anybody's familiar with Salt Lake City, over in the Midvale area. And I got up to the stoplight at State Street. I was sitting at the stoplight at State Street, and the light turned. And right then, a motorcycle came barreling into the intersection, and a car had started crossing into the intersection and T-boned with the motorcycle. So the motorcycle T-boned the car. It was a silver station wagon. I can see it just like it was minutes ago. On the motorcycle, there were two passengers. There was a young man and a young lady. Well, they both cartwheeled off of the motorcycle and into the oncoming traffic. Luckily for the young lady, she basically landed on the hood of a bypassing car, and it reduced the impact. So she really wasn't hurt as bad as the young man. Now, me being the child of a cop, a state patrolman, what do? I pull my car over and see if I can attend to them. Now, this was in the early days of cell phones, so as I got out of my car and was running to their aid, I'm calling 911 to report the accident. Well, the girl was on the ground, and she was fairly skinned up, pretty bad. She was bleeding from her head, and she had scrapes along her legs and arms, but she was alive. So I saw her, and I decided I better go check out the young man. Well, he was laying on the ground, almost unresponsive. So I went over to him and kneeled down to him, and he was struggling to breathe. And you see this in the movies. You see it all the time. When someone is supposedly taking their last breaths, they're struggling to breathe. Now, he was bleeding from his nose. He had pretty serious injuries from his head. He was bleeding. There was a pool of blood behind his skull. He was laying on his back. And not an EMT, but I was trying to see if I could administer it to him. Well, he was beyond my ability to save him. I knew not to move him because that's really a bad thing to do, is to move someone who's hurt, because you frequently can move someone else. So I picked up his head and I took my shirt off and I tried to wrap it around the back of his head so it would stem the bleeding. And he was mumbling, and it was incoherent, and I look in close my eyes and see this just as if it was yesterday. He was struggling to breathe, and suddenly he, about a minute to me trying to get administered to him, I could hear the sirens coming. He opened his eyes and took one last look and took his last breath. So right there on 53rd South, in the intersection of State Street, I watched this young man die. Now, he made some bad decisions that day, and so did the young lady. They didn't wear helmets. They were wearing shorts. They were wearing T-shirts. They had virtually no protection at all. In fact, I would call it no protection at all. My father would say, well, if you don't wear a helmet, you obviously don't have anything to protect. But it's one of those things in life you see in movies, but you don't always see it in person, for someone to take their last breath. So this young boy, I never even got his name. I read about it in the papers later, and I didn't even care to take his name because I was so shook up. But he died right there in my arms, and that was a weird experience because it's not something that all of us experience in our lifetime. So from that moment on, just like my father, I had a rule at my house, is that when people would come over, we might have a bike, there was nobody from my family, none of my kids, going to leave my house on a bike. And if I ever heard of my kids riding a motorcycle anywhere on the street, that was the end of that story. So I wanted to share that today. It's something that's really unique. It does happen. People do take their last breath. It is not a whole lot different than in the movies, but it's a whole lot bloodier. So if you love your kids, and I'm not anti-motorcycle for other people, you can make decisions. You manage your own risk. I think motorcycles are great recreational vehicles off-road, but I'm not a fan of motorcycles on-road. So if you love your kids, you love your family members, and they're riding motorcycles on the street, just be careful, because any given moment another motorcyclist can lose their life due to another vehicle. Well, until next time, check in with this. It's the Rex Andrew Show, and go to our website at rexandrew.com and check out the new coming sponsors and the stories, the interviews. It's great. We're going to have some good things come up in 21. Take care.